Cleithro, a short story by Jordan Kollman. She greeted him with lips and an open mouth before he managed to shut the front door, a welcoming home he hadn't received since they were still dating. The surprise assault nearly caused Mark to stumble backward into the hallway, but he recovered and returned the embrace in kind, relishing the feeling of her body and tongue against his. As she pulled away, he thought he detected a faint aftertaste on her breath, something unnatural hidden underneath, an earthy flavor that reminded him of potting soil. The taste was gone as soon as it had come, and he forgot about it in short order. "Welcome home, babe," Tracy said with a smile, and he smiled back. "Well, that was nice," he said, while his brain scrambled to attribute any significance to this day. A forgotten birthday or anniversary, or any reason at all for the enthusiasm he'd been welcomed home with. He came up empty, conceited, and said, "What was that for?" "I've just missed you is all. I'm glad you're home." She was still smiling, her green eyes drinking him in like sunflowers in the first light of the morning. She waited for him to remove his shoes and then took his hand and pulled him into the warm glow of the kitchen and kissed him again in fervent reminder of their youth. The taste was stronger this time. He thought it familiar but couldn't place it. Bad breath, perhaps. They passed through the kitchen into the dark of their living room, lit only by the cool white of the television. An old rerun of Tracy's favorite sitcom was on, filling the room with bombastic voices and the intervallic laughs of a live studio audience. Mark jumped at the unexpected sight of a figure sitting on the couch, a woman with hands in her lap and an upright posture, her eyes glued to the TV without so much as an acknowledgement of their presence. Her face was a blank slate. "Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you Shelby is here," Tracy said, motioning to her sister. "She wanted to come over and hang out for a while. Her husband has been fucking their underage neighbor. She walked in on them today." This tactless and matter-of-fact proclamation shocked Mark almost as much as the news itself. "Oh, Shelby, I'm so sorry," he said. "Have you talked to the police yet?" "Don't worry about it," Tracy said, waving an apathetic hand before sitting opposite her sister on the couch and patting the spot between them, grinning. "We're all just going to relax and have a good time right now. Why don't you come take a seat?" Mark shifted on his feet but relented and walked over to sit. When he did, Tracy scooted over to him and put a hand on his thigh, whispering in his ear while lightly brushing his cheek with soft lips. It was something she knew he liked, at least when they were alone. "Don't you want to have a good time with me?" she said, planting a slow, deliberate kiss in front of his ear, following it up with a dab of her tongue. Her cool breath carried a strange smell to his nose, and the hair on Mark's arm stood up despite himself. Tracy put a hand between his legs and gave him a firm squeeze. Mark started like he'd received an electric shock and pulled his wife's hand away, trying his best to whisper quietly enough for only her to hear. "What the hell are you doing?" he said, shooting a nervous glance at Shelby, who appeared unbothered. "It's fine, babe. I just can't resist you. It's not my fault you look so good." Tracy whispered louder than him and tried snaking her hand back onto his crotch. It was all Mark could do to keep her at bay without alerting Shelby outright. "Your sister is right there," he said through gritted teeth. "And you just said she's going through some shit. Just wait till later. You can have anything you want then." "Oh, there's no way I can wait. You're much too tempting for that. What do you say we go to the bedroom? I'm gonna give you something you'll never forget." Tracy moaned audibly and gnashed her teeth so hard Mark recoiled. He turned and looked at her with a bewildered expression, while hers was nothing short of ravenous. "What's going on?" he asked her. "I'm not comfortable with this at all. Just wait until we're alone." Tracy stood and looked down on him with crossed arms, not bothering to whisper. "I don't care how comfortable you are. You're my husband and you're going to give me what I want. I have to go to the bathroom. You have until I get back to lighten up and have a good time with me." She walked to the back of the apartment in a huff. Mark moved into Tracy's old spot and stared at the ground. He wasn't sure how much of that Shelby had seen and heard, but she'd surely heard something, and he had no idea what to say. "It's not her." She spoke so quietly, and Mark had been so consumed with embarrassed thoughts that Shelby's words didn't register at first. When he realized she'd said something, he turned to her, and for the first time he noticed that she hadn't moved since he'd walked in. Not one muscle. Not an inch. "What did you say?" he asked her. "It's not her. She's dead." The clunk of footsteps on the wooden floor in the kitchen preceded Tracy's arrival, and she walked into the living room with a smile on her face, hands clasped behind her back. Mark's stomach sunk into a pit of ice at the sight of her hungry smile. "All right, babe," she said. "Let's go to the bedroom. Shelby will be okay here alone for a little bit. I want you too badly to wait any more." Her smile widened, and a trail of green liquid ran from the corner of her mouth down her chin. She caressed her neck with her right hand, massaging slowly. "I want you, babe. You need to come give it to me. I won't let you get away." Mark's throat tightened as he turned to Shelby, who remained as motionless as ever, and said nothing. He looked into the lustful eyes of Tracy, who winked and beckoned him to follow before walking back into their bedroom. He didn't move at first. He felt like a python had squeezed the breath from his body, and he gasped and put a hand on his chest, attempting to gain control of his breathing. "Come to me, dear husband." A cry from the bedroom made him jump, but at these words he accepted his fate. She was his wife, and she needed him. He would always love her. He stood and walked into the kitchen. The apartment was dark, with the only light emanating from their bedroom, which sat with the door half open at the end of the hallway. Mark braced himself and walked towards it.